Are you wondering what happens after you finally decide to accept an offer on your home? Well, I'm going to take you through it step by step. So, offers came in, you accepted an offer, congratulations. If you've not watched my video on how to navigate the multiple offer process, which I hope was your case, make sure you watch that video first. So typically following accepting an offer, the buyer's earnest money deposit is going to go into the listing broker's escrow account. Now in Massachusetts, there's a period of time between the offer and the purchase and sale agreement, but that's not the case in all states. I just happen to be in Massachusetts. We sometimes call this period the due diligence period or the inspection period. If there's an inspection contingency in the offer, the buyer is going to hire an inspector to come and do an inspection on your property. Usually that's done right away. We want to get it out of the way. But there's typically about a 5 to 10 day period between the offer and the purchase and sale agreement. The smaller that period, the more serious the buyer is. Now, while you're waiting for the inspection results, your agent's going to put you in touch with your closing attorney. They're going to work with your agent to assist on the closing process. Then, when the inspection's complete, the seller's agent's going to hear from the buyer's agent with any requests for items that need repair from the inspection. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to agree to any or all of these things, especially if they were very clear or evident to the buyer at their showings. So I would say the rule of thumb is that if it's not broken or hazardous, then it's really up to the sellers or your goodwill as to whether or not you want to decide to do those repairs. But on the flip side, the buyer actually has the right after the inspection, if you can't come to an agreement, to walk away. They can simply walk away if they're not happy with something that came up in the inspection report too. And they're not obligated to provide a reason to the seller at all, though it is kind of nice to do that so you are aware of it for the next buyer. Now, if you're selling in a condo association or a community like that, your listing agent needs to gather all of the condo docs, all of the association's documents, all of the notes from the meetings, they should have done this a while ago, and the condo budget. A condo trustee is also going to have to sign documents confirming that all the condo fees are current and paid. And if you're the condo trustee, someone else from the association is going to have to do that. And the reason these things are gathered is because typically in an offer on a condo, there's a contingency for satisfactory review of condo docs, review of the budget, and review of the meeting minutes. And a buyer can actually back out if there are things in those documents or minutes that just don't work for them. And I'll give you an example. So I had a buyer who put an offer on a beautiful place with a lovely backyard in a condo. When we reviewed the condo docs, the docs actually revealed that the units above them had the unilateral right to build a deck that would sort of cover some of their backyard. And that obviously was something that was not going to work for my buyers who were buying the place specifically for the backyard. So once the buyer and seller agree on the inspection items and there's a satisfactory review of all the docs, we move on to the official purchase and sale. And that's a much more extensive document composed by the lawyers and attorneys for both sides. Just be prepared for a little back and forth. It sometimes can get contentious and sometimes it's pretty easy. It's really getting to the minutia of the language. Once we get to this point and the review of the docs have been completed, usually we're good to go to sign the purchase and sale. It's in the official purchase and sale documents that will include the final items that both the buyer and the seller have agreed upon for repairs from the inspection, okay? That'll be an addendum to the purchase and sale. And later in the process, the buyer will get to do a final walkthrough of the home to be sure that those repairs have been done. Sometimes they'll ask for official documents from the contractor, plumber, or electrician to show that the work was done, but that's not in every situation, and it's not actually a big deal to provide that documentation. So this is the point at which the buyer's lender is going to schedule an appraisal. In this case, we want the home to appraise at or above the final sale price. If it appraises below the final sale price, the lender's not going to issue a mortgage for a higher price. And at that point, the buyer is going to need to determine if they can afford to make up the difference and pay that difference up front with their down payment at closing. In some cases, there may actually be some renegotiation of the sale price based on the appraisal if they can't make up that difference. But there are some cases where the appraisal comes out low. That especially happens if there is a bidding war situation and your house keeps bidding above asking price or market value. So keep that in mind if your sale is one of those situations. As a seller, the other thing you want to keep an eye out for is the mortgage commitment date. Then that's if there's a financing contingency, that date will be in the offer. And your agent should be on top of this as well and really be in touch with the buyer's agent and sometimes their lender to make sure financing is all working out as scheduled and planned. Prior to closing, the buyer is going to do a final walkthrough to make sure the inspection items are complete and the home is in the same condition as it was when they first saw it. Sometimes in the purchase and sale, they ask for a couple other times to see the property for measurements, etc. And then at this point, the appraisal should be done. The mortgage commitment has happened. So that's been lifted. The mortgage contingency is lifted and all other contingencies have been lifted. So at this point, your attorney is going to send you a document called the ALTA. It's a closing statement so that you can make sure all of your numbers make sense as you prepare for closing. Sometimes people forget this, but you should reach out to your utility companies to notify them of your closing date. And it's also nice to leave the information of your utility companies to the buyer. And you can kind of like leave that with the keys and maybe the manuals and warranties for the appliances and things that you have in your home. It's just good karma, right? From there, you are essentially ready to close. All of your hard work to prepare your home will have paid off. Contingencies are lifted, and hopefully it's a clean, easy process for you. You're ready to close. Congratulations.